Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Mr. Chong, thank you for coming on with us.
My pleasure, man. It's always fun to be on the Alex Jones Show.
Well, thank you. Where should we start? Should we go to the latest stuff that's happened, start at the end, or start at the beginning?
Well, yeah, you know, the beginning of it all. Let's start at the beginning, because what happened to me really was a micro look at what happened to America. Because I was taken by surprise, as was, everybody. I was just doing my comedy and, selling my water pipes. And next thing I know, I'm in jail for 9 months for some little obscure booby trap law that they put in there that made it illegal to send drug paraphernalia across the state line using the government mail, and that was the technicality that they really busted me on, and then they threatened my wife and my son with incarceration if I were to fight it. They didn't want this to go to court, because I would have been able to, show the jury of my peers how evil and how ridiculous these people are.
And by the way, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 50 years ago, you didn't threaten people's family. That is a terroristic threat. That is terrorism. Yeah. Don't fight this. Give up your rights, or we're going to get your wife and your children.
Yeah, and then the way they even got us to break the law was total entrapment. They just went out and fake like they had a head shop, and then when we wouldn't send them, when we wouldn't break the law, they put people in my company, or in my son's company, and they broke the law, basically.
Let's walk through that. This is a double sting. This has been big in the Seattle papers, where the cops now own in more than half the bars and restaurants because they seize them and then illegally own the original things they seized. And what has happened there is a cop will sell a cop drugs in your bathroom and then seize your business in Seattle, one of the most corrupt cities for that in the country, totally lawless by the system. And that's the same thing. They set up a business, put somebody in your business to mail and commit the crime. They should all go to prison. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's what they did, in mine, because we even documented. It's in the documentary, a.k.a. Tommy Chong, where, we have the film that the undercover people used, where they're they're recording us, saying no to their request to send them, bongs across the state line. And then we see them, come into head shops and, undercover, and so they really, it was a total setup. And they told me that they were under the gun. They had to do it that way because I wasn't breaking any law, and so they had the raid all set up to go, coordinated to do a countrywide raid on all the bong shops, and because they wanted me, I was their trophy. They had to do what they did, and they even told me that. They told me, that I forced them to do what they did because I wouldn't break the law. And the thing was, I never broke the law anyway. It wasn't my company; it was my son's company that did it. And so, when they threatened me, and when I seen how desperate these guys were, I realized, I never had a chance, So, and what I did, what I wanted to do anyway, is I wanted to take a look. I really didn't want to go to jail. Of course, no one does, but once I accepted the fact that it was going to happen, then I turned around and then I became like a reporter, where I kept my eyes and ears open and my mouth shut, and I just documented what went on.
Yeah, that's what exceptional people always do. You didn't want to go through that persecution and hardship, but you turned it into something good, and that's a real mark of an amazing person, Mr. Chong.
Yeah, well, it was either that. The thing is, when you go to jail and you never, and you're not a criminal, most criminals, when they get caught, it's almost a relief for them. And I met a lot of people in jail they almost get caught on purpose so they can get rid of that drama in their life and go on with the incarceration part.
And a lot of them lived in foster care or in the government system. They want to be back in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's very comforting to them, because once you're in jail, you don't have to think for yourself. You're like a caged chicken. They just take you out, feed you, and exercise you, and then put you back in your cage. And there's a lot of people, in the system that really like that, as opposed to them living, on the streets or, in some dead end job, where they really have to work. In prison, you don't work. Basically, you work a few hours a day, maybe. But it's not difficult at all. And what you do mostly in jail is read. That's what I did. I read and you eat. So what's happening with America is that these greedy corporate entities have gotten the population to where it becomes a way of life with them. With these people, like the prison guard union is the biggest in California, and that means really the biggest in America. And their job is to incarcerate American citizens, or anybody.
They just had a Frontline special where it showed in Texas and other states the private prison industry comes and lobbies for stronger laws to put people in jail. Now, Florida, if you speed, you get 10 years in prison. Now, if a child, I have the article in Texas, fell asleep at his desk because his mom had gone to the hospital the night before, he was an A student. They arrested him, charged him, put handcuffs on him. He's now on probation for falling asleep as disorderly conduct. And they are just going mad dog crazy on us.
Oh, absolutely. And because there's no checks and balances, like when I was incarcerated, they used to lock us down around Christmas time. They would just say, "Okay, lockdown," and that's what you do when there's a riot or when there's any kind of trouble in the yard, or they lock everybody down, and then when they lock everybody down, everybody's in their cell, everybody's locked in, and then they do the search, the sort of the obligatory search, and they're always going to find something, because you're not allowed to have anything in your cell or anything like that there. So, and the reason they do that is so they can collect double overtime. You see, so what they do, they supplement their Christmas income by these phony lockdowns. And there's all sorts of scams going on in the prison system that people aren't aware of. There's a one called diesel therapy where they just wake prisoners up for no reason. They're being held for a trial or being held in between prisons, and then they'll put them on a prison bus, and they'll ship them across the country, or even put them on a plane and ship them across the country. And there again, when they do that, they get paid extra money for doing that.
And we pay the taxes. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, it's all out of the taxpayers' money. It's all on the taxpayers' dollar, and they just do this. They do it as a form of punishment. For like if they don't like a prisoner, they'll tag him. They'll say, okay, this guy's going to go on diesel therapy, and they'll wake him up like midnight or 2 in the morning and shackle him and put him in with other prisoners, and then they'll take him on a bus and away they go. And
that is the form of torture. Yeah. Congressman Hansen exposed the IRS, so they drove him around for months till all his feet exploded. The toes all popped out. They knocked his teeth out. This is a U.S. congressman.
Yes.
And it was done with extreme pleasure and enjoyment. A nation of torturing thugs and killers. The biggest part of the economy growing, spreading like a staph infection, flesh-eating bacteria. The country dying as they celebrate.